All right, let's get right into it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever held back, an idea at work, a feeling you had, maybe a secret dream, all because you were afraid of what other people might think? Well, today, we're diving into the incredible work of researcher Brené Brown. She argues that the secret to a happier, more connected life isn't about avoiding that fear. It's about leaning in and stepping right into it.
So all of this comes from her game-changing book, Daring Greatly. And this isn't just one person's opinion, okay? We're talking about years of solid research, hundreds and hundreds of interviews, where she basically discovered how embracing our vulnerability can completely transform everything. How we live, how we love, how we parent, even how we lead. And the whole idea, even the title of the book, was sparked by this amazing quote from a speech Teddy Roosevelt gave way back in 1910. This man in the arena idea, it's the central metaphor for everything we're talking about. The point isn't about winning or losing. It's just about having the guts to show up, to let yourself be seen, to be all in, even when you have zero control over how it's going to turn out.
Okay, so if getting in the arena is so important, what's stopping us? Why is it so hard? Well, Brené's research points to something huge, a deep cultural problem. This collective mindset that keeps us all standing on the sidelines, pointing fingers and worrying about the fingers pointed at us.
And she has a name for it, scarcity. You know this feeling, right? It's that little voice in your head that's always whispering, not enough. We wake up thinking, I didn't get enough sleep. We go through our day feeling like we're not getting enough done. We go to bed thinking, I wasn't enough today. It's this constant, exhausting feeling of being behind.
And what does that scarcity mindset do? It turns us all into scorekeepers. We're constantly comparing, constantly measuring ourselves against everyone else. This quote from her just nails it, right? We're so busy calculating what we don't have that we forget to live. And at the very heart of all this comparison and scarcity, there's one really powerful, really painful emotion driving the whole thing.
And that emotion? It's shame. Now this is so important. We have to understand the distinction she makes here. Guilt is, I did something bad. It's about your actions. But shame is I am bad. See the difference? It's not about what you did. It's this incredibly painful feeling that you, yourself, are fundamentally flawed and unworthy of being loved.
And here's the thing about shame. It gets its power from being hidden. It loves the dark. When we hide our stories of failure or embarrassment because we think we're the only ones, the shame just grows. So to protect ourselves from that feeling, we do what any human would do. We armor up. Which brings us right to our defense mechanisms. To shield ourselves from the pain of scarcity, of judgment, and especially of shame, we come up with these really sophisticated but ultimately damaging strategies. We build ourselves an emotional armory. So just think about it for a second. When you feel exposed or afraid you might fail, what's your go-to move? What's your default setting to protect yourself? Because her research found 3 really common and really heavy pieces of armor that most of us reach for. First up, perfectionism. Oh yeah, this is the 20-ton shield we carry around, thinking that if we could just look perfect and do everything perfectly, no one can ever blame or judge us. Then there's numbing. We scroll on our phones, we stay crazy busy, we eat, anything to avoid actually feeling the hard stuff. And the third one is a little sneakier. It's called foreboding joy. That's when something amazing happens, and instead of just enjoying it, we get instantly anxious, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. But here's the deal. That armor is exhausting. It's so heavy, and it keeps us from actually connecting with our lives. So what's the alternative? Well, the antidotes are pretty straightforward, though they take practice. Instead of perfectionism, we practice self-kindness. Instead of numbing, we learn to sit with our feelings. And for foreboding joy, the fix is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Gratitude. Just stopping and being thankful for the good moment, right then and there. Okay, so this is where we flip the script. This is the big, mind-blowing idea in all of Brown's work. We've been taught our whole lives that being vulnerable is a weakness, a liability. But what if that's completely wrong? What if vulnerability is actually our greatest measure of courage? So let's get really clear. What are we actually talking about when we say vulnerability? Because it's not what most people think. It's not just oversharing your whole life story with everyone you meet. No, it's something much more fundamental. Okay. First things first, let's bust the biggest myth right now. Vulnerability is not weakness, period. In fact, think about it. Can you name a single time someone showed real courage that didn't first require them to be vulnerable? You can't. It's impossible. They go hand in hand. In fact, if you go way back, the original meaning of the word courage is just amazing. It comes from the Latin word cor, which means heart. So courage literally meant to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. It wasn't about being a superhero on a battlefield. It was about the simple, ordinary courage it takes just to be real and open.
And that right there is the core of it all. As she says, we must dare to show up and let ourselves be seen. That is vulnerability. It's having the courage to be imperfect, to step into that arena, not knowing if you're going to win or lose, but showing up anyway. That is daring greatly.
So this all sounds good, but how do we actually do it? This isn't just some lofty idea. Her work actually gives us a roadmap, a path to practice this kind of courage in our real, messy, everyday lives. She calls this journey wholehearted living.
And wholehearted living is all about moving through the world from a place of worthiness. It's that deep down belief that you are enough. Right now, today. Not, I'll be enough when I lose 10 pounds or when I get that promotion. No. It's believing that even though you're imperfect and sometimes afraid, you are fundamentally worthy of love and belonging just as you are.
And she gives us the tools for this journey. She calls them the gifts of imperfection. First, courage, the courage to show up and be imperfect. Second, compassion, starting with being kind to ourselves, which then lets us be kind to others. And third, connection, the kind of real connection that only happens when we let go of who we think we're supposed to be and just embrace who we actually are.
And look, this stuff isn't just for our personal lives. It's huge at work, too. Imagine a workplace where people feel safe enough to innovate, to pitch a wild idea without being afraid they'll get shot down. That's what this is all about. Leaders creating cultures where it's not just okay, but it's expected for people to dare greatly. And it's just as vital at home, right? With our families? It's about showing our kids that it is okay to struggle and make mistakes. It's about creating a family where the message is crystal clear. No matter what, you belong here. You are loved for exactly who you are.
So when you boil it all down, it comes to this one simple, powerful idea: embracing your story. The good parts, the messy parts, all of it. Isn't just a piece of who you are, it's the whole thing. And owning that story with your whole heart is the bravest, most courageous thing any of us will ever do.
So, at the end of the day, the question isn't if you're going to find yourself in the arena. Life will put you there, trust me. The real question is, how are you going to show up? How will you choose to dare greatly in your own life?